stuff, Northshore. You guys excited for another week at church? My name is Stephen Bolt, and I'm not going to lie, me and the team here are so excited to spend some time with you today. You know, each week we look at the numbers and just see how many people are tuning in. We realize there's a lot of people who tune in just because this is your church home, but there's also a ton of you that tune in maybe just to check us out. Maybe you just moved to the area and you're looking for some community, or maybe you're somewhere else in the country or the world and just need a message of hope and truth today. Hey, if you're in that group checking us out, just know that we are so glad that you're here with us. I know that we haven't had a chance to meet you yet, but you need to know that even before the service started, our team took some time and just prayed for you. We were praying that no matter what platform you're watching on, no matter where you're tuning in from, that you would just begin to feel a sense of belonging. Here at Northshore, we believe that Jesus can change everything for anyone. We want you to know that regardless of your past, regardless of your church history, no matter how close or far away from God you might feel right now, know that at Northshore there is a place for you. You belong here, and we believe that God has something for you today. So thank you so much for joining us. Hey, before we jump in, we would love the opportunity to connect with you and say hi. So if you're on one of our platforms with chat, just let us know where you're watching from. Each week, we are having more people join us week over week for these experiences than ever before in the history of this church. That is some good news. And I wanted to encourage you, keep telling people about what's happening here at Northshore. Keep being together for our neighbors, the next generation, and those in need. And right now, take a minute and share the service. Hey, thank you guys again for spending some time with us. And again, welcome to Northshore.
See Thanks again for joining us today. My name's Brandon. I'm one of the pastors on staff here, and I want to teach you a new song. This song reminds us that God is so faithful, that He's always been faithful. He's faithful right now, no matter what we're going through, no matter how we're feeling in this moment. He is faithful, and He will always and forever be faithful. We can worship Him today, even if we don't see everything that He's doing. We can worship Him, that He's good. And so as you catch on to this song, go ahead and sing along with us. And let's celebrate God together.
Gracias, Antonio y María, por estar con nosotros hoy y por contarnos algo de lo que está sucediendo en España. ¿Cómo está la situación en España en estos momentos?
La verdad es que es muy grave, muy seria, aunque dicen los técnicos que ya se está llegando al punto de empezar a bajar. Pero todavía no podemos salir de casa, salimos con un documento especial, pero la situación sigue siendo bastante alarmante.
En estos momentos la necesidad básica es la comida. A las 2 semanas de empezar el estar encerrado, las chicas, yo llamaba a las chicas, algunas, y empezaron ya a pedir comida, no tenían comida.
Estamos atendiendo en estas 2 semanas 136 personas. Eso es imposible poder atenderle. Entonces nos valemos de, si alguien nos da algo, poderlo cambiar por algo para que podamos seguir saliendo adelante. Y damos gracias porque hemos recibido ayuda y ofrenda para poder paliar estas 2 semanas, pero eso ya estamos llegando al final.
Mi teléfono empezaron a dárselo uno a otro y hubo una señora que me llamó y dije, no, tiene que llamar el teléfono tal, del ayuntamiento. Y al otro día me volvió a llamar la señora y me dijo en la conversación, mira, pero simplemente necesito hablar con alguien. Por favor, dedícame 5 minutos de tu tiempo. Que la escucho. En el último momento yo sentí en mi corazón que algo, y sentí como que el Señor me dijo, cuida a mi gente. Llegué aquí al salón y le dije, Antonio, me voy. Así que cogí todo lo que tenía en ese momento, y cuando nos vio, fue y vio las bolsas, se puso a llorar porque le daba vergüenza.
¿Y cuántos hijos?
Tiene 5 niños. Bueno, pues yo llegué y dije, vamos a adoptarla. Así que toda la semana le damos de todo con una dieta, intento que sea una dieta buena para niños.
Y lo ponemos y hay personas que abrimos el teléfono y están orando por lo que hacemos. Esto nos da una energía, una fuerza tremenda, ¿no? Y también hay mucha gratitud para el Northshore en cuanto a todo el apoyo que estamos recibiendo. Hay la gran ayuda, las ofrendas que están mandando. La verdad es que damos muchas gracias por todo ese apoyo.
Gracias por tu importante trabajo. Espero que sepas que seguimos orando por ustedes y por aquellos a quienes está sirviendo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a vosotros. Muchas gracias.
Thank you again for spending some time with us this week. If you just joined us during worship, my name is Stephen Bolt. How incredible is it that we get to be a part of those women's lives all the way over in Spain? I am so thankful to be a part of a church and a community that doesn't just say that we're here for those in need, but we actually show it. There has never been a better time for us to continue being generous and continue being the church than right now. So if this is your church home, would you pray about what it would look like for you to be a part of what God is doing through Northshore? So often I pray that God would let me see miracles happening, but how incredible is it that God has positioned Northshore to be the miracle happening in Spain right now? Please, I don't want you to miss out on being a part of this. To give, you can head over to northshore.church/give. You can actually click the link in the chat section that our hosts are posting right now, or you can text NShore to the number that's showing up on your screen. If you've been with us for the past couple of weeks, you've seen that we're in this series called The New Normal. Scotty's got a great word for us this week on what it looks like for us to still be in community in the midst of what's going on. Hey, thank you so much again for hanging out with us this week. Let's jump into the message.
Hi, my name's Angelica, and I serve on the music team here at Northshore. Today we will be unpacking scripture from the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verses 24 and 25. It says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching."
Hey everybody, welcome to Northshore. My name is Scotty Scruggs, and I'm the pastor here, and I'm so glad you're joining us this weekend. We're in this message series called The New Normal, about how to find God when we are physically isolated, financially stressed, relationally strained, and spiritually exhausted. And this week, I want to talk about the spiritual and emotional impact of being physically isolated. And we're living in an era that will forever be known by those two words, social distancing. And you all know what that means. Avoid social gatherings, stay at least 6 feet away from other people. In fact, every relationship outside of whoever you live with is now a long distance relationship. And relationships are not meant to be kept at a distance. True story, the only experience I have with a long distance relationship is when I was in 4th grade. I looked something like this, dashing, right? So of course, I had a girlfriend. The problem was that she lived in another state. And I can still remember just how difficult that was, trying to navigate a relationship without being in person. And what made this relationship even more complicated was that she didn't actually exist. I just made up the whole story to try to impress my friends. But let me tell you, it wasn't easy to manage an imaginary relationship across state lines. We are living in an era of long-distance relationships. And the reality is, it has changed everything about how we do life together. No family get-togethers, no going out with friends, no grandkids visiting their grandparents, no grandparents visiting grandkids, no working out at the gym, no Pilates classes or yoga classes or Zumba classes, no meetings or birthday parties or graduation ceremonies or weddings. In fact, I read a story this week about an engaged couple who didn't want to postpone their wedding, so they decided to get married in the middle of their street. No kidding. And they invited all their neighbors to watch from their front yards. Now, the good news was they saved their parents like tens of thousands of dollars, but it wasn't exactly what the bride and groom dreamed up when it comes to their wedding. And that's just one example of how this era has fractured some of the most sacred relational moments in our lives. Right now, fathers can't be in the room when their children are born. People can't say goodbye to a loved one when they're dying in a hospital bed. In fact, one of my closest friends lost his mom this past week. She had Alzheimer's. She had been sick for some time. And on that last day, they couldn't visit her without protective clothing. They couldn't touch her or hold her hand. They couldn't even stay and be with her when she passed. And that's not the way God made us to live. In the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, when God creates human beings, he says this, "It is not good for the man to be alone." That's not just a statement about marriage. That's a statement about isolated living, that we're not made to be isolated from each other, separated from each other. We're made for relationship and connection. In fact, this need for community is so fundamental to how God made you. Being relationally isolated can actually impact your physical health. Here's an example. Some time ago, there was a study that tracked the lives of 7,000 people over 9 years. And researchers found that the most isolated people were 3 times more likely to die than people with strong relational connections. And people who had bad health habits like smoking or poor eating habits or no exercise, but they had strong social ties, they lived significantly longer than people who had great health habits like running and biking, but they were isolated. So as a friend of mine likes to put it, it is better to eat Twinkies with your friends than broccoli all by yourself. But isolation is not only harmful for your body, it's actually harmful for your mental and emotional health as well. And we're seeing all kinds of evidence of that in this new normal. In a recent poll by the Kaiser Family Foundation, 45% of adults say the pandemic has affected their mental health, and 19% say in a major way. Crisis centers around the country are receiving increased volume of calls about anxiety and depression. In fact, one call center saw a 338% increase between February and March. And while social distancing is taking its toll on everybody, this season has been especially hard on people who live alone, people who are single, divorced, widowed, or estranged from their family, people who are living far from home because of school or a job. I was single until I was 38 years old, so I lived alone for years, but never through a season like this. I can't even imagine how difficult these recent months have been. I read an article this past week that quoted a 69-year-old woman named Karen who lives alone in a small town in Pennsylvania, and she said this about what she's going through. The company of my colleagues has disappeared, and I find myself alone at home, parked in front of a computer for 10 hours a day. I'm disoriented, unfocused, lonely, sad, and worried. I don't deal well with the unknown, so I feel I have control of nothing. The future does not exist. How could I have taken so much of my life filled with the company of friends and family for granted? I'm existing, not living. And maybe you're experiencing something like that in this new normal. Maybe it feels like you're just existing, you're just surviving. So, how do we do this? I mean, how do we not just exist? How do we live? How do we grow? How do we, as the writer of Hebrews put it, spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as we've all been forced to do, but encouraging one another? In other words, how do we get closer while keeping our distance? Well, I was reading back through some of the Apostle Paul's letters in the New Testament, and I discovered the Bible actually answers this question. Remember, Paul knew all about forced isolation. Several of his letters were written while he was in prison in Rome, which was far more severe than what we're living through. But that didn't stop Paul from seeking to stay close to the people he knew. And you can see it in the parts of his letters that most people tend to just skip over, the opening and closing remarks that are often filled with comments and personal references that sound quite irrelevant to us. But in fact, they are the key to helping us grow closer while keeping our distance. So, for the rest of my time, I want to point out 4 biblical practices that emerge from the opening and closing remarks throughout Paul's letters that are simple, practical, every one of you can do this, and they have the potential to change this new normal for your relationships. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. First practice. When you're talking to a friend or someone you care about, whether it's in person at a distance or via technology, start with words of love. Start with words of love. When the Apostle Paul would start a letter, he would usually begin not with teaching or admonition, but with words of love and his longing to be with whoever he was writing to. For example, he wrote these words, "I thank God every time I remember you," Philippians 1:3. Or, "I long to see you so that you and I may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith," Romans 1:11 and 12. Turn to almost any of Paul's letters, and you'll find he begins with words of love. It's so simple to do, but we don't do this. I mean, think about how you start a phone call or a text message. Maybe it's with small talk, maybe it's gossip, maybe it's about the difficult day you had or the difficult person you're living with. I actually looked back to a recent text thread with a friend, and here's what it went. I said, "How's it going?" And he said, "It's going okay, you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And that was it. Not exactly a moment of deep intimacy and connection. So rather, start with words of love. That's how Paul did it. And actually, that's how God did it. Remember, when Jesus was baptized, God said to him from heaven down to earth, which is far more than 6 feet, "You are my son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." I know some of you have been living with an increased amount of anxiety and worry in these days. And one of the best ways to experience relief from anxiety is not just hearing someone say, "I love you," but saying, "I love you." The writer of Proverbs puts it this way: anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. And it's not just a kind word received, it's a kind word spoken. And we can all do this. In fact, we can start right now. So wherever you are right now, if you can, I want you to take out your phone, and I want you to open the message app. I'm doing that on my phone right now. And I want you to pick a person you care about, someone you wish you could see more or hang out with or be close to right now. It could be a close friend. It could be a relative. It could be a mentor or a leader in your life. If it's single, it could be someone you're dating or someone really cute that you wish you were dating. But pick a person you care about right now and just send them a quick note, something that says something like this: I've been thinking about you, and I just wanted to tell you I love you and I miss spending time with you. And not to be stereotypical, but guys, this assignment is for you too. Start with words of love, not just once, but whenever you think of that person, whenever you see that person. Some of you are thinking, isn't that a little excessive or over the top? Well, remember, we're living in a new normal. We've never had to live through a season quite like this. And if you want to build stronger relationships, stronger connections while you're isolated, start every conversation with words of love. Simple, right? We just got to do it. That's the first practice. Second practice is this: pray for other people. Pray for other people. You know, most of us love to talk to our friends or hang out with our friends or play sports with our friends or take classes with our friends. But what about praying for them every day? In Paul's letter to the church in Colossae, he mentions a coworker named Epaphras. Now, we don't know much about Epaphras other than he was from Colossae. He probably met Paul in a city called Ephesus. He became a follower of Jesus, and he went on to travel with Paul in some capacity. And beyond that, all we really know is how he was committed to praying for people that he knew in his life. Look at what Paul says about him. He says, Epaphras, who is one of you, a servant of Christ Jesus, sends greetings. He is always, get this, wrestling in prayer for you, that you may stand firm in all the will of God, mature and fully assured. Epaphras couldn't be with the people he knew, but he stayed connected by praying for them. And not just a one-off prayer here and there when he was thinking about it, but wrestling in prayer every day. Question: what comes to mind for you when you think of wrestling? Just to be honest, my mind goes back to what was once called the WWF and a wrestler named Hulk Hogan, or Hollywood Hulk Hogan in his more evil days. Anyone remember him? Big, strong, world-class mustache, not afraid to get in the ring and fight it out. Well, see, wrestling in prayer is kind of like that. It's going to battle with God for the sake of others. God, heal my friend's cancer. God, restore that marriage. God, break down that wall of bitterness or resentment in that person. Epaphras was praying this way every day for people he knew but couldn't be with, and he might not ever see again. Why? Because prayer forms an unbreakable bond. Prayer creates an enduring connection. When you pray for a person, you grow closer to the person. I was talking to someone on our staff who's gifted in prayer, and I asked her if she feels more connected to people just by praying. And I want you to listen to what she had to say. These are her words. She said, I have a sense of three of us when I'm praying for someone specifically. I visualize the person, and I kind of enter their space, their issue, their need. I think about their situation, the way they might feel, and empathy and compassion begin to stir in me. I try to always ask for something I believe God will say yes to: grace, peace to rule in their hearts and minds, more love of Christ in their life, and any fruit of the Spirit that may come to me as I think about it. And then she said, God has changed me a lot with this kind of praying for others. And she said, I definitely feel connected and less alone. Because when you pray for a person, you grow closer to the person. Even if you can't be with them, even if you can't meet them for coffee or see them in person. Now, I want to pause and name something that's real important when it comes to prayer. I know prayer is a difficult discipline for many of you. Just to name it personally, I love reading the Bible. I love spending time with God and nature. I love practicing solitude, but wrestling in prayer for others has not always come easy for me. I tend to wrestle with God about my own needs, my own concerns. So let me invite you to approach this a little differently. Don't start with an obligation to pray or a sense of duty that you have to pray. Instead, just treat this like a week-long experiment, just a week long. Try wrestling in prayer for one person in your life that you know, that you care about, that you can't be with right now, for 1 week. Just 1 week. Pray for them every day for a week. And if you miss a day, sorry, you got to start over. And then when you get to 7, call them up and talk to them. And I promise you'll feel closer. You'll feel less alone. You'll feel more intimately connected to what God is doing in their life. And guess what? There's no closer bond than that. That's why Paul told the church in Thessalonica, we always thank God for all of you and continually mention you in our prayers. Paul understood this. He understood that when you pray for a person, you grow closer to the person. So try it this week for a week. See what happens. Start with words of love. Pray for other people in your life. And then the third practice is this: ask for help. That's right, real simple. Ask for help. In Paul's second letter to his student Timothy, he asked Timothy to come see him as soon as possible. And he says this, I love this verse: when you come, bring the cloak that I left with Carpus at Troas, and my scrolls, especially the parchments. This is in the Bible. This is part of God's inspired word to you and me. And I'm so glad it is, because it reminds us that even the great Apostle Paul, the most prolific leader in the first century church, sometimes he just needed help with something. Scholars believe this letter is the last letter we have that Paul wrote. So these are the words of an older Paul, worn down by years of traveling and preaching and working and serving. And most of his friends at this point were now serving in other places, or they had abandoned him. And so here in this letter, he asked Timothy, his student, for help. Bring my favorite cloak, maybe because winter was coming. Bring my scrolls, and that could refer to the Old Testament writings or other texts that Paul simply wanted to read up on. And while most people would simply gloss over a verse like this, there's a beautiful intimacy and vulnerability in just asking someone for help. And I think this is a crucial lesson for you and me as well in this new normal. One of the best ways to stay close while keeping your distance is to actually ask for help. Can you bring me some groceries? Hey, can I borrow some detergent? Hey, would you help me with my taxes? Hey, can you walk our dog this afternoon? Hey, can you adopt our children because they're driving us crazy? By the way, if you're going crazy being locked up with your family or the people you live with, we're going to talk about that next weekend. You're not going to want to miss that one. But in this era of social distancing, there's an intimacy that comes when we ask for help. Again, it's super simple, but we don't do it enough. In fact, most of us would rather offer help or contribute something or make a difference for someone, right? But everyone watching right now, all of you have a need, something that you could use help with right now in your life. And here's what happens. The more you keep that to yourself, especially now, the lonelier you're going to feel. So maybe it's time to ask for help. And you can do that right now in the comment section online, or if you're in a life group, reach out to your life group. And by the way, if you're not in a life group, here's my word for you. Get in a life group. Life groups are the best way I know to have authentic community in your life. And guess what? Our life groups are still meeting together, talking together, helping together, even if it's online. They're connecting and praying and helping. And I thought it might be helpful to see what that looks like in this new normal. So our director of group life here at Northshore, Lauren Neal, dropped in on one of our life groups this week. So take a look at this video.
It is really good to see you guys. First of all, let me just say I really miss your faces. This is the Victor and Katrina Miyusi group. You guys are an intergenerational life group that meets every Tuesday night. And I just wanted to hear how it's been going since you've converted this past month and a half onto Zoom.
One thing that has been a surprise for me is that after the group is over, technically at 9, several of us will stay on and just keep talking, and we go sometimes till 10 or 10:30. And we used to do that at the Mayusi's house, and that is still happening. So, and I didn't expect that.
I'd say for us, honestly, in this last year in general, we've just walked through really tough stuff, and it's just become really apparent how important it's been to be part of a community kind of before things get bad or before you need it per se. And just like feeling like we already have such a close group of friends that these are the people we want to bring like the toughest stuff to and say like, hey, can you help us through this? I think that's been huge.
I live alone with my cat. So I don't, the one thing during the lockdown here, I haven't seen many people at all. I'll go for days without seeing anybody. And yeah, the Easter Bunny showed up with an Easter basket, which was pretty cool. I've also had fresh baked bread arrive at my doorstep as well.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Pretty good stuff.
Even with Zoom, I think that I'm just really excited to see people in person again. And so already anticipating that, getting ready for that shift. And we've been talking about how to do that, whether it's a tailgate party, keeping a little distance, but still being closer than we are here. And we're just, at least speaking for myself, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. It's definitely made me take things like this, like life groups or just groups of friends, not so much for granted. I feel like it was just sort of like, oh yeah, our friends. And I definitely don't take it for granted.
Yeah, Lauren, it makes us think too that, we have so many Zoom calls constantly, like throughout the week, like I'm wrangling 10-year-olds to get them on a phone call, and Brian's calling clients and all this stuff. And so I think that we feel, this time is so unique that we do feel bombarded. Like, how could I add in one more Zoom call that's going to be meaningful? And so I think that for us, when we connect with our life groups, it's a night that's so different than any other Zoom call throughout the week. I mean, we are getting to focus on Jesus. It doesn't matter, how I performed at work that day. It doesn't matter if our house is a mess. We just get to show up and be in community, and a community that's spurring one another on toward Jesus. We serve together, we lean in, we learn from one another, but ultimately we get filled because it's all about Jesus. And for us, that's made such a huge difference in the midst of doing this kind of connecting. That's different for us. And it is, it's just different in the best way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What you just saw is the church. We believe that people don't go to church, people are the church, and life groups are the best expression of that I know, because in a life group, you can be fully loved and fully known. You can just show up. And if you want to get more connected to a community like that, there's a great opportunity this week, this Thursday night. It's an online community experience we call Starting Point, and you can join in. It's about finding your place and your people here at Northshore. There's more information online, or you can find out more in the comment section right now. Start with words of love. Pray for other people. Ask for help. And then one more key, really simple practice, and I love this one. Prepare the guest room. Prepare the guest room. In one of Paul's letters, he was writing to a personal friend of his named Philemon. And Paul wrote it from a prison cell, meaning he wasn't able to see this friend in person. And at the end of this short little letter, Paul says these words. I love this. He says, and one thing more, prepare a guest room for me because I hope to be restored to you soon. Paul didn't know if or when he would ever see his friend Philemon again, but he said, prepare the guest room for me anyway. And to be a guest in that day would have meant there would have been a great meal, fine food, the best wine. It would have been a celebratory moment. In other words, Philemon, let's plan a reunion party. And here's the deal. We need to do the same. Prepare a guest room. Get the couch ready for a visit. Save a date on the calendar for coffee or dinner or that family visit. And if you have to postpone it, that's fine. This is less about preparing a physical space and more about letting your heart feel hope again, that we will not be socially distanced forever, that this too shall pass. And I got to tell you, I am ready to see all of you again. I'm ready to hang out with my friends again. I'm ready to meet someone for coffee or some other beverage that God inspired people to create and enjoy. I'm ready to do life together again, and I'm sure you are too. And that day is coming. So prepare the guest room. Be encouraged with hope. And remember, you're not alone, even in the new normal. Jesus once put it this way, for where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am with them. Gathering could be in person. Gathering could be online. Gathering could be on a video chat or a call. Doesn't matter how you gather. It matters that when you do, Jesus is always there in that community with words of love and interceding with prayers for you and ready to help. You're not alone. You're never alone. The community you need is right here waiting, and we'd love to help you with that. In fact, Stephen will be back on in just a few moments, and he'll share a little more about how you can take that next step. But for now, let's pray. And then let's worship our God and thank him for making a way for us, not just to know him, but to be connected to each other in this new normal. Would you pray with me? Jesus, we are so grateful that whenever we gather and however we gather, you are with us. You promise to be with us, that we are never alone. And I know in this season, I've experienced that pain of isolation and disconnection and aloneness. And we know we're not meant for that. And so, Jesus, we're grateful that you give us a way forward, these simple, practical steps that you modeled in your life, steps that we find all throughout the New Testament, woven into the letters of the Apostle Paul, to start with love and to pray for others, and to ask for help and prepare for that day when we can gather together again and celebrate the fact that we don't have to go through life alone. What a gift community is, what a gift relationship is, what a gift connection is. And God, I pray that you would help everybody listening right now feel authentically connected to you and authentically connected to others. And where needed, give them the courage to take that next step, to get plugged into community right now. And be with us as we do this week, Jesus. We're so grateful that you're going to walk with us every step of the way in this new normal. And we pray this in your name. Amen.
You are here.
bringing us that message today. Hey, let us know in the chat section who else is thankful for their life group and their community. And I wanted to tell you guys just a quick story. When our daughter was born about 1.5 years ago, she actually had some complications and actually stopped breathing. Thankfully, it was a short trip up to the NICU and she was able to recover quickly. But you know that right after our family, who's the first person we called to pray for us and the first person to show up at the hospital? It was our life group leaders, Brian and his wife, Sam. Church, regardless of if you feel alone right now and know you need community, or if you get to the end of this experience and say, we'll do it later, I'm okay right now. Let me tell you this, we did not know what was gonna happen with our daughter that night. But when it did happen, we knew right away who we were calling. It was Brian and Sam. My wife and I were so thankful that we spent the time and took the risk to join that life group when we did, long before that night happened. We can't plan life, but there's a group of people right now who need you to be a part of their lives, and today is the day to take that step. Don't wait. We have an experience coming up this week. You heard Scotty reference it just a few minutes ago called Starting Point. That Starting Point will help you discover your passions, answer any questions you have about Northshore, and find community. Regardless of if this is your church home or if you're just checking us out, do not let this pass. Come and join me at Starting Point. To get signed up, you can actually head over to northshore.church/connect. You can click the link that our hosts are posting right now in the chat section, and we'll get you all the info you need. I hope you'll join me there. If you also need prayer, we have a team of people that would love to take some time with you and pray right now. Our hosts are also going to be putting that in the chat section, and they'll actually be sticking around. If you just want to let them know you need prayer, they can help you find that. They can pray for you right now and link you up with someone one-on-one who will pray for you right now. Hey, thank you guys again for joining us. We'll see you guys next week here at Northshore Online.